This is a Saucony Peregrine 12. It's the first Saucony trail shoe I've ever tested, and it's also arrived at my door early and without any rundown or spec sheet. So what is the Peregrine 12 all about? It's time to lace up these shoes and take them for a run. 6.72 miles, 981 feet of gain, and 153 beats per minute on average today, going for a first run in the Saucony Peregrine 12. Now, before I give you my thoughts on this shoe, after not only this run, but I've spent about a week now running in this shoe while I was out in Connecticut visiting my sister and my parents, I do want to go over some disclosures. This is a pair of shoes that was sent to me by Saucony for the purpose of review. However, they're not paying me to make this video or to use the shoe, and they're not going to get a chance to preview any of my footage or my thoughts before you guys get a chance to see this video on YouTube. So with that disclosure out of the way, let's talk about the Peregrine 12. Now, let's go over some specs first. I mentioned at the top of the video that this is a pair of shoes that got sent to me early and without any sort of spec sheet, so I don't have a ton of information about it. It's a 4mm heel drop shoe with a midsole made out of PWRRUN foam. Now, there's a bunch of different PWRRUN iterations that Saucony's been using. They've been using PWRRUN PB in their Endorphin Speed and Endorphin Pro line of shoes, and they also have PWRRUN Plus, which is in the Triumph series of shoes, which I've been really enjoying lately. This is just kind of regular PWRRUN, which is something that I've seen in the Kinvara. I believe it was in the Kinvara 12. I didn't review that shoe, but I did review the Kinvara 11. This is the same type of foam that's in the midsole here. Moving to the outsole, there are some pretty aggressive lugs, at least for the kind of trail shoes that I normally run in, using what Saucony calls their PWRTRAC formulation of rubber that is supposed to be nice and durable, but also grippy as well. In between the midsole and that outsole rubber is a layer of something that looks kind of like a carbon-ish material, but they're calling it a rock plate that's in there to help protect your foot depending on what you are stepping on. Moving to the upper, the toe box up front is extremely stretchy and very comfortable, very breathable. There is a little bit of what feels like a TPU cap on the top to help protect you from some of the things that you might be kicking on accident as you're going through the trail. And as you move further back, there is some additional layers of material that make it a little bit less breathable, but also just a little bit more comfortable and protective on your foot. As far as the tongue goes, it's very thin and it has just a little bit of padding to it. I really like how minimal it is, just gets out of the way. I haven't had to think about it a single time, which is pretty much how much I like to think about tongues on shoes. The lacing system on this shoe, I really enjoy. For me, a lot of times with trail shoes, I feel like before I get the shoe on, I have to spend a lot of time fidgeting with the laces. The way that they've set up the lacing system on this shoe, I know you've seen things like this before, but the way this works is you just get your foot in there and you just tug on the laces, and instead of it just kind of really getting tight up at the ankle, it pulls on all the laces up with you. So it's just very quick to get in, tie the shoes, and you get a really good fit. I'm really liking the way the laces system and also the laces material that they've chosen are working out together. Moving to the heel cup, there is a little bit of structure in the back. It's kind of like a relatively low heel cup back here. And then there is a little bit more material that ends up in somewhat of a moderate or mild Achilles flare that's up back here that is lightly padded and a little bit flexible, not super floppy, but also not super rigid as well. This thing did a really good job of not only kind of protecting my ankle and keeping it locked in place, but also didn't cause any sort of chafing or rubbing. So I really like the setup. And then to kind of finish the design, they've got a little bit of a pull tab in the back. Now, the one other thing that I want to mention about this shoe is that it's using Saucony's Form Fit system. Now, Form Fit is something that deals with different layers of materials that they put inside the shoe. And on this shoe, I believe it is that PWRRUN is the lower layer in terms of the midsole material. And then the upper layer is the insole. And this is a pretty thick insole. And I believe it's made out of the PWRRUN Plus material. It kind of looks boosty and it's got those kind of pellets, and it reminds you of like an Adidas Boost shoe or of the material that's in the Saucony Triumph 19. But this is nice and soft, and then there's also a middle layer in between there too. Previously, they've used PWRRUN as the mid-layer foam that kind of goes in between the insole and the midsole. I'm not sure if they're still using that, but I think that's what Form Fit is kind of like that 3 foam system. Altogether, this shoe comes at a weight that I measured. I don't have the stated weight, but I have a measurement that I took before I got it through any of the mud, and it came at a weight of 9.4 ounces. So what was it like to run in this shoe? I had an absolute blast running in this shoe. I took it out to Connecticut, where the terrain is very different than the pavement and the 0 uphill and 0 downhill running that I normally do along the lakefront here in Chicago. I had a blast with it. Out there, it had been really, really warm for the entire time we were out there, like after kind of Christmas and up until New Year. And everything was muddy, slippery. There were like leaves and rocks that were really, really wet, and larger rocks that had very flat surfaces that could be very slippery. And there's just tons of roots and just all constant up and down. There was very little room to kind of let the legs open up, but a very exciting place to run. And I felt like the PWRRUN foam with this insole was a really great combo, and I felt like it was very comfortable, a soft material to run on, but also still felt very fast and snappy. So when I did get a couple of stretches of straights that I could really run down, I felt like I could open it up, and the shoe was very willing and very happy to pick up the pace and get that quick turnover. But when I had to quickly put on the brakes and get those feet moving very quickly to navigate some rocky areas or some very steep downhills or uphills, it was also very nimble and able to move around with a lot of agility. The fit I felt like was really nice and snug without being uncomfortable in any way. So it just felt like an extension of my feet with a couple of grippy treads on the bottom. I do like the PWRTRAC a lot. I do feel like it's very grippy, but also it didn't cake up with mud at any point during my several days of testing. So I felt like it's shedding a lot of that gunky stuff really well. I never felt like the fit was sloppy at all. So when I did have some of those more tricky parts of the trail that I was going down on quickly or maneuvering on rocks, I felt like the shoe always felt very secure on my foot. And I think that also helped me feel secure on that variety of terrain that I encountered over the past several days of testing. There's no part of this shoe that I thought was uncomfortable, no chafing, no rubbing. So I just felt like out of the box, this was a great shoe to just put on and run hard and have a really great time kind of barreling through the trails as fast as you can. I felt like I had a really great amount of cushion and a good amount of responsiveness so that I could go faster. So I just felt like it was thrilling to be in the shoe and had such a great time. The only one kind of downside that I felt to this shoe is that the testing that I did, I was on a lot of kind of very large rocks that made it hard to run fast because there wasn't really a lot of places to put your feet a lot of the time. So it really slowed you down. But when I was on those rocks, I felt like the rock plate that you can kind of see peeking through the bottom of the shoe, I felt like it did a great job of providing enough protection from those rocks and the roots that I was on. But there were a couple of times where I was on kind of gravel roads or other access roads where the rocks were a little bit smaller and kind of like just kind of a little bit more everywhere. Sometimes they had little sharp pointy bits. That's when I did feel like the rock plate maybe wasn't giving me quite enough protection. And I always kind of found myself trying to avoid the rockier parts. But overall, I felt like I liked the balance that they're trying to strike here between soft material underfoot, responsive material for going faster, protection that you get from a rock plate, but trying to avoid deadening the feelings that you're getting from those midsole foams. So I felt like this was a shoe that's definitely excited to go a little bit faster. So for some of those, I think my regular trail runs and then shorter trail races, I think this is going to be an absolutely fantastic shoe to be running and racing in. So those are my thoughts so far after, I think I'm about 27 miles into the Peregrine 12. Let me know in the comments if you have any other questions about it, or better yet, stop by the live stream I do Monday through Friday right here on YouTube. I'd love to talk to you guys in the chat. That's all I have for today, everybody. Thanks so much for making it all the way to the end of the video. Hopefully you guys are staying safe out there on your runs, and I'll see you in the next one.
Yo, what's going on?